I have been working my way through every Chaos Space Marine Warband and Legion, trying out all the different flavors of Chaos Space Marines. And one that I have not dipped my toes into yet is the Iron Warriors, one of the most popular chapters of Chaos Space Marines. However, that's not exactly true, because I've got them right here. I painted up an Iron Warrior in all of their hazard striped glory, but that video never saw the light of day. This little legionary turned out fantastic with his crispy yellow hazard stripes and his cold steel armor. I finished up painting this guy on a Friday, but by the following Monday, the SD card that video was on had vanished. And it's presumably somewhere in this house, but it hasn't shown up in the last 4 or 5 months. So yeah, press F in the chat to pay respects to that video that never was. However, now is the time to end the search for the lost SD card and to just redo the video. Let's give the Iron Warriors a second try, because these guys are really cool. Dipping back into my box of Chaos Space Marines, I cut out another Legionary. The Chaos Space Marines are a little trickier to modify than filthy Loyalist Intercessors because there's so much detail and texture on these bodies. If I wasn't using a Legionary, I would probably use a body from the Heresy Mark II armor. I mean, the Games Workshop box art is Iron Warriors. It was a match made in heaven. Now, how to equip this little Legionary? I gave my first attempt a humble bolt gun, but obviously that was not good enough, and the Chaos Gods punished me by stealing my SD card. For this second attempt, I'll give him an upgrade to a Heavy Bolter. The Heavy Bolter is an upscaled bolt gun that shoots shells the size of spray paint cans. The Heavy Bolter has an upgrade for the backpack too, an extra ammo pouch. I have no idea how he reaches back there, but when it's time to reload, he's got an option. Now, this weapon is not the one meant for this torso. The Chaos Legionary kit is sorta monopose, with the instructions telling you which arms go with which torso. But I have found that if you force it, any arm will fit any torso. I just used a little extra plastic glue to fill in the gaps. I cut the backpack nub off the torso so I can glue the power plant on a little higher than normal. I find this makes my Chaos Space Marines feel a little bigger, especially with the giant wingspan of the Chaos backpacks. Now for the head, and for an Iron Warrior, these horny helmets are a no-go. Iron Warriors hate mutation, seeing them as worthless compared to the strength and assurity of steel. When Chaos grants them a boon, they carve it off and replace it with mechanical bits, so I'm gonna go with a regular Chaos helmet. I mixed up some green stuff and stuck a tiny ball in his neck so that his head can sit just a little bit higher than normal to help bulk up my boy. And speaking of bulking, it's time for the shoulders, but once again, these heavily corrupted Chaos shoulders just aren't doing it for me in the Legion of Steel. I instead went and grabbed an Assault Intercessor sprue. These have these pauldrons that have a tall lip. I don't really like this, so I don't glue them onto my Assault Marines, but for Iron Warriors, these will come in handy. I took a Sharpie and made marks on the edges, right in the middle, and then I made marks in between those previous marks. This will be a guide for when I'm cutting. I want to make these shoulders look like the teeth of gears. I took my hobby knife and carefully cut through the lip on an angle, working my way around the shoulder, then coming back and stabbing horizontally through these marks to hack them away. Then I cleaned up my cuts a little bit, and once I was happy with the shaping, I used a little alcohol to wipe away the Sharpie marks. For some reason, Sharpie will bleed through paint jobs no matter how much primer and varnish I use. I learned that the hard way. Now to stick these custom shoulders on, I glued down little balls of green stuff and then slid the shoulders into place. Iron Warriors should have strong, solid shoulders. Ooh, the Heavy Bolter. I like the girthiness of the Heavy Bolter. This should just be the chapter symbol of the Iron Warriors. And speaking of the Iron Warriors, these guys are actually pretty darn interesting in the Horus Heresy. One of the more interesting lores that I have read on the different legions. If there was ever a legion that was gonna turn traitor, Iron Warriors are way up there on the list. These guys had it real rough, and a lot of it was down to their Primarch, Peter Robo. Perturabo was a really bad guy, a real stick in the mud. Actually, he is a stick in the mud because he's still alive. He survived the Horus Heresy and his ascension into demonhood, and he's just been hanging out for the last 10,000 years. During the Horus Heresy, Peter Robo led his legion across the galaxy and conquered numerous worlds, and he was known for his brutal tactics of just throwing bodies into the meat grinder until they won. This was really, really inefficient because it led to them having the highest attrition rate out of all of the different Space Marine legions, but it was effective somehow. And to achieve this version of success, Perturabo led his legion with an iron fist. If they achieved victory, then that was not celebrated because that was just supposed to happen. But if they failed and they lost a battle, then 1 out of every 10 battle brothers would be selected at random and murdered, with no pomp and circumstance, just killed and left in the dust. This was to demonstrate to his Legion that failure is not an option, and he was doing this pre-Horus Heresy. Like, the other Primarchs saw him doing this, and they were like, can you chill? And then Portorabo was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Portorabo just kept leading his Legion through ridiculous attrition warfare, hating every second of it, and when it was time for the Horus Heresy, he just kind of flipped like a switch, and most of his Legion probably barely even noticed because his Legion, the attrition rates were so high, most of his Legion was pretty fresh at the time of the Horus Heresy, so it was kind of just a new business as usual. And the next business for this sucker is the base. I prepared myself a Cobalt Keep 32mm, sinking in a magnet, and for the landscape, I'm thinking a nice drab trench battlefield. And to make those trenches, I grabbed some sandbag bits. These are our bits, Grim Battlefield basing bits, available at EonsOfBattle.com. EonsOfBattle.com is the place to find hobby goodies like our EOB dice, wet pallets, waterslide decals, basing toppers and bits, and custom nameplates. And is the best way to support us with a membership. Each month, members get a credit they can use on our new monthly terrain packs or any previous pack we have ever made. Come celebrate Orktober with us and head on down to the Orc Rodeo, a whimsical assortment of high-octane hijinks. This set includes a series of walls and barricades that not only create a coliseum of chaos, but also fit in with our previous Orky wall terrains. Then there are the Goblin Game Carts, a series of mobile orc entertainments pulled along by an orcified food truck, literally dripping with some good orc grub. Rounding out this set are the 3 amigos, some brave goblins riding their violently bucking steeds. All this terrain was designed by us and is available at EonsOfBattle.com. I found some sandbags that would fit on the bases, dry fitting them to make sure. On the flat piece, it needed a little bit of a trim and then I glued it down. Then to fill in the rest of the space, I grabbed my mud texture paste and slobbered it down, using a wet brush to pull off the excess, smooth it out, and then clean it off the resin pieces. Then I glued down my marine with some thick super glue. Now to get some paint on this sucker, I blasted him in black primer. The Iron Warriors wear dull gunmetal armor, so to create this look, I started out spraying them with some heavy metal from scale 75. This color flows to the airbrush really well, and in 2 coats he was shiny and chrome. Now for the darkness. I took Grim Black Speed Paint, thinned it down with a few drops of Speed Paint Medium, and gave the entire mini a once over. I put it on as quick as I could so the paint would have time to settle, and while it was drying I kept an eye on him using a clean brush to wick away extra paint that was pooling in places I didn't want. Now he's dark, I want to bring back a little of the shine with the dry brushing of my original silver color. Just like that, 80% of the mini is done. Now to pick out some of the details. I hit the trim of his greaves, the trim of his gun, shoulder pads, and helmet with 2 coats of gold. The Iron Warriors aren't one for too much ornamentation, but a little gold looks good. Maybe it's to keep key components from rusting. Now onto the shoulders. I started off giving these surfaces a black base coat, and I decided to also hit his one visible knee, and all the pouches and holster. Now for the hazard striping, yellow hazard stripes. My favorite yellow was Army Painter Demonic Yellow, and I mixed in a little bit of bright neutral gray to help it cover over the black. I took a brush with long bristles and started drawing on yellow lines. I worked with thin paint so it would flow nicely and did a few coats to hide all the black. Now to do some highlighting, I used an off-white yellow to highlight the top of the lines and an orangey yellow for the bottom facing stripes. Then I broke out one of the funnest paints to say, Fugen Orange, and glazed this super saturated orange color over the bottom half of the shoulder. Now that I have a lovely gradient of bright stripes, I can go back and clean these up using some more black paint to sharpen up the lines and get it perfect. I did the same thing on his knee. This armor has got a point in the middle, so I made them alternating lines falling down from the center. Then I used all the same colors to highlight and shade them. Iron Warriors are really fun. It took almost no time to get the model here, so I have no qualms about spending some serious time getting these stripes perfect. Now for the other shoulder. I want to fill this up with some decals, so to prep the surface, I gave it a few puffs of gloss varnish through the airbrush. I dug through my decal collection to find the Chaos Space Marine transfer sheet, which comes with some snazzy Iron Warrior skulls. I cut out one of the medium-sized skulls, holding it up to the shoulder to check that it'll fit. Once I knew it would work, I let it soak on my palette and then transferred it to the shoulder, squishing it down with a wad of wet paper towel to crush out any air and water from underneath. Now I've still got plenty of room on this shoulder, so I grabbed a Space Marine decal sheet and stole the numeral 4. The Iron Warriors are the 4th Legion, and I slid it right next to the skull. Now that I've got all the decorations on there, I want to messy these up a little. I took a piece of foam and sponged on some yellow over the hazard marks and some gray over the black shoulder pad. Then I took a nice brush and painted on some micro scratches over the black stripes to brighten these up and lay down just as much color as possible. My little Iron Warrior is coming along quick. Nice coat of iron, nice coat of hazard stripes. And hazard stripes are so effective as an accent tool because our brains are literally trained to see hazard stripes and think, look at that, pay attention to that. And to have it on the Marine is really, really effective. It really makes me think of what this paint job would look like on other Chaos units. One in particular, The Vex Mechanitor Arc Lord Discordant, also known as the Disco Lord. This guy was really, really bad all edition, which is why I was able to get this box for a really, really good deal. But recently, he actually got a huge bump to his datasheet, and now he's playable. Oh, and I got one of these suckers in box, and this would look so good in Iron Warriors colors. I'm not starting a Chaos Space Marine army, and if I did, would it be Iron Warriors? I mean, I don't know if it wouldn't be Iron Warriors. Oh, Disco Lord, I don't know why I own you. I just really, really like this model. And painting up an Iron Warrior has got me thinking pretty hard about the Iron Warriors rules. The Iron Warriors don't technically have their own dedicated rules, but they do have a detachment that's kind of built around their flavor, the Fellhammer Siege Host. This one is built around buffing your vehicles and your normal boys, and it's kind of got me excited about the normal boys. This is just a regular battle brother, but Havocs are very spicy. They're the Chaos Space Marines who can take all of the heavy weapons, and the box is a little annoying because it comes with 2s of some things and 1s of some other, but one of the things that it comes with 2s of is the Heavy Bolter. The Heavy Bolter is not the spiciest weapon around, but in a Havoc squad, it does have Sustained Hits 1. And then because I'm a Chaos Space Marine player and I can take a Dark Pact, it can also have lethal hits. And in the Fellhammer Siege Host, I could give it reroll 1s. All of a sudden, the humble little Heavy Bolter is starting to look pretty spicy. And no one would see it coming because nobody is scared of the Heavy Bolter these days. 2 boxes of Havocs would give me enough bits to put together a full Heavy Bolter squad and a full Las Cannon squad. Which again, I'm not starting a Chaos Space Marine army, but if I was, that'd be a lot of fun. Every time I paint a Chaos Space Marine, it really gets the brain churning with all sorts of different chaotic ideas. But before I make any bad decisions, I gotta finish up this little sucker. The next step for my Marine is to mess him up a little. I gave him a satin varnish to bring all the previous finishes together, and then I sponged on some silver all over. This is to make the armor look pitted and weathered. Now all the metallics are done, I can hit the other details like his pouches. I mixed black with a little tan to make a few layers of scratchy highlights, and his holster is haphazardly tied down to his leg with some straps, so I used pure tan on these and then hit him with a brown wash. I don't want to go too crazy on the pouches, you can barely see him anyway. One thing I do want to bring attention to is his face. I want these eyes glowing with a fiery red. I took a dark red and glazed this over his lenses, and I painted it around his eyes to make it look like they were glowing. And I put this over his screamer mask as well. Then I used pure red to highlight his lenses and edge highlight his eye sockets to brighten these areas. Now my Marine is done, it's time for the base. My Marine is actually pretty colorful with the yellows, reds, and shiny metals, so I want the base really dull. I started out with a base coat of brown and then a dry brushing with some tan. After that, I took Noble Skin, which is a black speed paint with some brown in it, and I thinned it down and slobbered it over the entire base to shade the recesses of the sandbags. Then I did another round of dry brushing to highlight the edges, and then the base was done. The only thing left is to hit the base rim with a coat of Apple Barrel Gloss Black paint. Iron within, iron without. The Iron Warriors, a Chaos Space Marine Legion, so cool. I painted it twice. And I almost want to paint up a third one, just to make it a proper collection. The Iron Warriors look really good. In terms of Chaos Legions, the Iron Warriors are one of the more recognizably chaotic chapters. Like sometimes Chaos Space Marines, it's easy to get them mixed up with the regular loyalists, like, is that Space Marine Army? Is that Ultramarines? No, it's Night Lords. Is that Blood Angels? Oh no, Red Corsairs. But black, shiny, iron black with hazard stripes, that is a color scheme. It looks pretty good, it's really, really easy to do, and it's kind of got me thinking about a model kit that I have no business buying, and that is the Saturn IX Terminators. I absolutely love Terminators, but there's no real reason to get them for 40k. There's nothing in the Space Marines that is like a Saturn IX Terminator. Now for the Chaos Space Marines, there's a little unit called Obliterators. Obliterators are a really cool shooting unit, big hulks of chaotic muscle with guns sticking out of them. But that really doesn't work for the Iron Warriors because they don't rely on filthy chaos mutations. They prefer the cold certainty of steel. And if I wanted something that was the shape and size of an Obliterator, but made a little bit more sense for the Iron Warriors, that would be some Saturn IX Terminators. Also, it's just a fact that the Saturn IX Terminator armor looks really good in Iron Warriors colors because it's meant to be in the Iron Warriors colors for 30k. And so it would slot so perfectly into 40k. The only thing putting a kibosh on this idea is I don't collect Chaos Space Marines. Well, I collect Death Guard, but they have their own stuff going on. I do not collect vanilla Chaos Space Marines. But maybe one day I should. I don't know. What I do know is the Iron Warriors are really fun to paint, and let me know in the comments below what Chaos Space Marine, Legion, or Warband should I take a look at next. I gotta get going, and comparison shop Saturnine Terminator armors on eBay. Thanks for watching.